When we open a business, we try to be different or we try to be unique. It's very hard to actually understand how things work and what we really want to do, what management style do we have. Going to be a lot of opportunities in 2022.
Hey guys, welcome to this new video. In today's video, we're gonna discuss about hospitality, running a hostel and HoReCa businesses in Vietnam. So to dig into that subject, I have with me today Nicolas. So he's a good friend of mine. You used to run a hostel in the downtown of Ho Chi Minh City. So I'm very happy to have you today to discuss about the opportunities of the HoReCa business, the challenges that happen also during that pandemic time, and maybe some key lessons that you learned as well as insights that you could share. So if you guys are interested into learning more about that, let's discover everything in this video. So first question I have for you, Nico, what about your journey from France to Vietnam?
So when I arrived in Vietnam in 2012, I started as an intern for a French company here, doing some cognac importation. And I actually instantly started to really like the country and its culture. And I was discovering also part of my culture because I'm half Vietnamese, but I'm born in France and my father was adopted. So he was mostly French, just looking Vietnamese. So I was understanding all this, and it gave me a very, very strong motivation to actually start a business here, or at least do something here to either contribute, but also be part of the development of Vietnam. And I quickly became a Saigon insider. And one of my first business was to actually welcome foreigners in Vietnam. And then I had enough savings, enough money to build a hostel and to start a hospitality business. That's how things started.
What about the USP, so the unique selling proposition that you had and that you decided to take to run Dabland, that was your hostel business located in Ho Chi Minh City?
It's a good question because I think when we open a business, we try to be different or we try to be unique. But we also just get started. So it's very hard to actually understand how things work and what we really want to do, what management style do we have. So it took me a lot of time to actually find it. So actually the core thing that drove the business was to create a shared house for welcoming students for their first week in Saigon. And the idea behind this was, when you are a student and come for an internship, which is what I did, you actually stay in a hotel or somewhere in the city center, and then you actually find your shared house or you find your spot near your company for the remaining 6 months. So that's what I actually did. I built a house like this, so there was a rooftop, there was a pool table, so it was perfect for students staying a week, enjoying the nice vibe of the student life in Vietnam. And the particularity already of the business was that it was in District 10. So District 10 is a bit outside of the city center, a bit outside of the party center, the business center. So that gave us a sort of a good way to show authentic Vietnamese culture and authentic experiences, because District 10 is very unique. And I actually liked it. And for the year and a half that I was looking for my USP, actually, after realizing this, I had no need to search further. I would just provide a place, authentic, like a bit like this place, where you are in the city center, but you are in the real Vietnam, and not just in a condominium or in a business tower or in a very luxury hotel. There was more connection with the locals and the neighborhood.
Is there any opportunities in 2022, according to your experience, about the tourism industry? So basically launching an F&B business, launching an HoReCa business, a hostel like you did. Do you think right now this is the right time to jump into that industry?
Yes and no. I mean, like, of course, it's going to be a lot of opportunities in 2022 because a lot of competitors who were there before, they had to close down or they had to slow down their activity. So the whole marketing machine, the whole industry with all the investors that were there, there are probably some changes. So it's probably like a new market, I guess. But also, I think we have to take into account that Vietnam was a big market. Like Vietnam tourism market was about probably 12 to 15% economic growth, like every year, year to year. So it was a booming market, and I think it's still there. It's just that it needs to restart, and we are reopened. Vietnam is reopened, so every tourist is welcome again. Of course, it's going to take time with the procedures that are changing, with the laws that is adjusting, and people who also probably for this year have already made up their plans. Like we are from France. If you are planning your holidays for the summer, you plan them during the winter. So probably it's going to be a lot of smaller, probably small growth for 2022, sorry, but it's a good way to prepare for the next year probably. So for investing, yes. For preparing, like marketing, starting to attract tourists for the next year, yes. And taking advantage, of course, of the competition that is completely gone. Like me, myself, like I've stopped investing in hospitality for now. Some other big chains, I know, like they are affected by the COVID. So it's time, if you want to build a small thing, to take the space that is available right now.
Okay, so you should consider like someone can come here as a tourist visa, probably like do some market study, investigate a little bit which region they could set up a company, and then maybe see how also the trend is going down back from the international tourists to Vietnam and like kind of get started, right?
Yes, exactly. I think it's a good way to see it because we are already in April, so you have 6 or 7 months left to go, I would say, for this year. Even if things are reopening slowly and even if the visa policies is okay and everything, but 6 months is, in terms of business, is not that long. In 6 months, you have the time to find a place, you have the time to build the business and get the processes running, eventually start to get your first customers. So I would take advantage of these 6 months to actually, like, you know, draft the plan and make sure you find your USP, which took me a year and a half. So in your case, it could take 6 months and you can focus on this actually.
Okay, so we're gonna go dig into that and maybe some pitfalls that you face, as well as some insight that you could share to those potential investor or business owner who would consider jumping into that tourism industry. Maybe we can go over there and have a coffee, right?
Yes, okay, that's perfect.
So Nico, what about the lesson learned over 4 years running that hostel business in District 10?
So it's a good question. I think the biggest lesson I learned doing business in Vietnam is in general is like it takes time to get the business to the top ranking or like to where you want to bring the business. So first thing I had to focus on, but it took me time also to understand I had to focus on this first before the rest, was to make sure the place would be full, but with two conditions. The first one is full of people that I actually like to host, and so part of the USP discoveries, part of the target that I wanted to have, because it's easy to get people fully booked. Right, it's like you get
discount the price.
Yeah, that's what they do in District 1 in the big area. Like you can pay for the price of one night about $2 or $3, but in the end, nobody end up making money, and even the service and the quality behind has no value. Like it's not a good stay, and I wanted the experience to be good, and I wanted to have a good business in that sense, and the second condition was like I needed to see that my guests were reviewing me with a satisfying review, like they were happy about their stay, 5-star reviews, and all these things. So that was the first lesson learned. It was to make sure like what is my vision of success and what do I want to do, and it was to make the place full of people fully satisfied and the people I wanted to host. Then the second lesson was to ensure that after that, I'm not doing everything. I'm not the center of the business, because if we talk about success, if I want to open many more branches or different businesses in the end, I have to extract myself from my business, and I cannot run like a headless chicken all around and serving guests, preparing the beds, preparing the coffees, animating the parties on the rooftop and on the bar. I had a rooftop bar and everything, which is what I was doing at some point when we were full. So I learned to delegate. I learned to work with Vietnamese. That's very, very challenging from a French cultural background, because we have a different way to work. We have a different way to collaborate. But in the end, that's a chapter in itself, because once you learn to create your processes, once you learn to create your training, once you learn to hire the people that you think can work with you and you know it's going to be for a long run, then past that lesson, I think the journey is already okay. You have a business that starts to be almost full all year round. You have a team that makes it run. Now the last ingredient is the automation. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. That's my favorite part of the business, is where you take what's possible to replicate and you make sure that it's a recipe that you use for internal processes, that you use to manage your staff, to train them, to share the culture, and to, of course, automate the customer experience. And this way, the business owner can somehow take a step back and eventually start to manage the business. So that's where you switch from being an entrepreneur or like a small business owner to becoming actually like a business manager or like a managing director. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned an important component, like the first lesson, and at least the first goal you were aiming for was mostly to get 5-star reviews from customer, right? We talk about online, offline. How do you think the online is super important right now in 2022 and then beyond compared to offline? How did you put the right balance between those two worlds?
Okay, so there is something very specific about Vietnamese market in tourism. It's like usually people will go from north to south or south to north. And when you talk about offline marketing, if you make a guest satisfied and you are in Saigon, there's chances that 90% of chances that he will go to the north. And if he cross on his way all the travelers, which is the case, and they ask him or her, what was your experience in Saigon? Where did you stay and how was it? And the recommendation comes 99% of the cases, Dublin Hostel, which was my hostel, then I win. I win on the offline level. The word of mouth was much more important than I thought at the beginning, because I didn't understood this logic of people going back and forth. And of course, like the online marketing is important, is essential, is what a lot of tourism businesses forget to do, is that there is people all over the world that prepare their trip to Vietnam. They are looking for information and they cannot make a phone call to your hotel or they don't know your receptionist or your hotel definitely. So you have to, be featured in other people's blog, in other people's websites, listed online and everything. Now I think for me there is two different things in the online marketing. There is the online marketing done by the online travel agency, what we call OTA. Mm-hmm. They do it for you. It sounds easy, it sounds fun, it sounds cool, because you are listed down automatically. You can put your pictures and you don't need to do anything about website or SEO or any savvy stuff. But I would recommend to actually, on the side, build your own website, build your own articles, your own blog, try to get your words online on the Facebook groups, on the travelers groups, forums and everything yourself, because otherwise, if you rely only on OTAs, they will control your ranking. they will control your level of occupancy, and eventually they will always take their cut, and they don't take the cut at the end when you have paid the staff and you have paid the rent. They take the cut at the beginning when the people book. So it's clever from their side, but for us business owners, we have to be worry about this. And I'd like to warn everybody who is intending on investing in hospitality today.
So when we talk about Agoda, Booking.com, those groups, I mean those websites, like how much is the cut they are taking on each order?
They are taking 15%. I think that's the market average. And then you have some newcomers who take less. You have some Chinese platforms that take less. You have some, and you have like Hostel World, for example. They offer to take more, but they rank you higher, or they give you some specific space, and you can always pay more if you want to get a premium place on their site. So it's a lot. It's 25% or 15% cut from your revenues of the booking. So after that, of course, if they extend on site, you still get the revenues, but that's a lot, because sometimes people, they book for a few nights, they only stay these few nights, and that's money that is gone.
So developing a strategy using those platforms to get traffic, on the second time building your own websites, and then after, of course, trying to do some partnership, right? You mentioned about people going from the south to the north, so I guess partnering with other hostel, other travel agencies, right, to help them to book tours. People renting motorbikes. That's the kind of partnership also you develop.
Yep, and that's offline. That's offline, exactly, where you connect with other people in your network. And my competitors, let's call them competitors, I was not seeing them as competitors. I was seeing them more like as potential partners, because when you know your market, when you know your unique selling proposition and your target, if someone is not happy at your place, you better send them to a happy place, and he would still be happy with you, rather than trying to keep them as much as possible, and it doesn't work. And I was making some partnership with Kanto City, so in the Mekong. I was making partnerships in Da Nang, in Mui Ne, in Dalat, in all around the cities that were in Cambodia as well. Some partnerships in Cambodia, and with other like connected business, so travel agencies, local travel agencies, and obviously the ones who are fitting with my image, so that I know that if they have people in front of them, they are part of the target I am looking for, and not just random people and making their life more difficult.
What would you do differently, what you've been doing 4 or 5 years ago, compared to what you would do now if you would get started again?
So I think now, especially in 2022, we have the chance to be able to have online tools, or at least like technology available for a very affordable price. So I would actually bring technology more in the business from the beginning, instead of starting with my Excel sheet and calendar papers that we pass on at the reception and everything, where we take notes and stuff. I would probably use a POS. So it's called a point of sale, that coffees, bars use so all the time. PMS, so it's for the property management system. So that's what I was using, but I started using it, I think, after 2 years. And I really saw the difference, actually, because you get your bookings directly inside one system. You don't have to book or like increase your number of beds available all the time. It's even in the middle of the night if you get a very big booking or something like this. So it's very convenient, and the staff can also like quickly cancel, quickly book again, find the information of former guests. So it's really convenient. Some hostel or hotel will be able to manage also their cleaning and the housekeeping, which I wasn't, because it was one house and I had one cleaner full time, so it was easy to manage. I didn't need the technology for that. Or bigger, even better, is the full ERP, which is what I do today, where you can actually connect with your accounting, you can connect with your if you have an inventory, for example, and other different businesses, because you can manage multiple branches, multiple businesses across one single tool, which is really good. So that's one thing I would do differently, probably.
Okay, so technology, focusing on the technology first, and then what about like added some value for the customer? Let's say you want to open a small coffee shop, you want to do some events. So that's things you would also consider to basically upsell your customer.
If there is one thing that I didn't had at my hostel was to be able to welcome guests from the outside. So it was a private house basically, where it would be good for the guests. They would actually privilege that because they liked that, you know, only 40 people could connect together, and we had private events. That was nice. But during the low season, for example, or during the down times of the day, for example, at 3 p.m., there is nobody in the hostel. So at that time, I could have, you know, outside guests, like Vietnamese local who would come to get a coffee or have a meal, or offer some activities or events for the outside world. Would have been good for the business and also good for the guests, because, for example, I could have organized some language exchange. I could have organized some cultural exchange or like specific activities for the tourism for the tourists. That would have been a really good thing to add in the business. And the hotels or businesses who actually are able to welcome outside guests, I think they don't suffer much as I was from the up and down of the tourism season in the city. And that's a good thing to consider if you open something, to have a parking where you can welcome locals so they can park their bikes, and you can have this type of activities.
Okay, very interesting, Nico. I hope you guys took some notes, and then if you plan to do such a business, you have a lot of things you will have to prepare. Now you have a blog, Nico, nicolatan.com, and you have an article explaining more deep in detail about those 4 lessons or challenges you face. Can you mention this a little bit?
Yeah, so you can continue, let's say, this conversation, or if you want to have more information about this experience I had in the hostel and in the hospitality industry, I've made a blog article where I come back to tell more in details about 4 lessons I learned as a business owner, as a hostel owner. I mentioned some of the things we talked today, but it's also a good way to, if you didn't take note, you can read this article.
Okay. Thank you, Nico, a lot for your sharing today. Don't forget to check in the description the link of Nico. I will probably put other resources. So if you guys want to jump into the F&B, the HoReCa, or the hospitality business, you find more information below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a thumbs up, and I see you in the next video.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
And I'ma get it right, down sight like